Alright, spoiler alert right here at the top. If you haven't finished Shadow of the Erd Tree, watch no further. But they finally did it. They nerfed the final boss of the DLC, Consort Radahn.
Look how they massacred my boy.
I've had the privilege of fighting him 6 times now, and I have not gotten my RL1 run to the DLC yet. So for me, I'm not going to have the honor of saying I beat pre-patch Radahn at rune level 1, but I've done it with a bunch of meta level PvP characters, and the easiest one, the easiest go I had was with my over leveled tune in New Game Plus 4, which is the footage you're seeing here. I just did a shield poke behind the thumbprint shield. That seemed to be the less headache of any method. But regardless of how you beat them, if you beat the DLC before now, you can say, whoa, you won't even know what pre-patch Radahn was like. Same as with the base game. Now what they changed in particular with this boss was the action pattern when the battle starts. They adjusted some attacks, the cross slash being one of them. They decreased the stamina damage from the attacks, the attack range of some of the non-weapon based ones, and improved visibility. Visibility was probably the main issue, that and the cross slash. There were a lot of PvP exclusive balances, and I told myself I'll get back on PvP, use all these metas before they get patched out, but then I found myself playing Sekiro, and I've been like loving that to death. I kind of burned myself out on Elden Ring for a second, so I didn't get the privilege of using some of these. They decreased the damage of backhand blades against players, except for the Smith script circ throwing attacks. I don't think the damage was the main issue with that. I think it's the tracking of the special Ashes of War and the special Ashes of War themselves being kind of a pain. They decreased the damage of dual spears again after having increased them again in the last patch, and they were previously nerfed out of existence before that because they were cancer in PvP. So I'll need to take a look and see where they're at now. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people play testing those to see like just exactly where they sit. Are they still meta again? Or are they back to being where they were when nerfed? They decreased the damage of the Pata, which is basically got the reach of a thrusting sword, but it's a hand weapon, so it has the speed of a hand weapon, and it did hella damage. I didn't get the privilege of using that while it was meta, unfortunately. And with the spread crossbow, it's no longer going to cause the headshot animation. As far as skills, they touched on the scatter shot throw. They decreased damage against other players, and it also no longer does the headshot animation. But I think the status buildup with bleed is probably the most cancerous part of scattershot. We'll have to see where that lands at. The discus hurl, they decrease the damage animation value generated when it hits a player. The tracking is the most cancerous part of the discus hurl, so they're listening to what it is that needs to be touched on, but they're not really improving it the way it needs to be improved. And then Weed Cutter, yes, they decrease the poise value of the follow-up attacks when using the skill against other players. I think the poise value of the weapon itself, Rakshas's Great Katana, is really in need of some tuning, but touching on this, skill is an improvement, but the weapon itself does have some crazy values. It can trade with great swords and even colossal swords as a great weapon. So it's a nerf that's needed, but not the nerf we need. Now there's another meta that has been destroyed. The offhand Great Katana into the R1 This is the note for it. After performing left-handed attacks with weapons such as the Great Katana category, canceling into subsequent attacks using a right-handed weapon will now take longer. You could obtain a true combo by using the Great Katana left-handed into an R1 of other weapons. So this is another meta that is going to be broken if they tuned it adequately. The hand-to-hand weapon arts, they increase the damage and shorten the recovery time between some of the normal attacks. Colossal sword weapon type, they increase the move distance when attacking and increase the speed of the first normal attack. So now I think it might be able to trade with the Great Katanas, because the Great Katana's speed is what makes it one of the best great weapons. Backhand blade weapon, they decrease the attack speed of normal attacks from the crouching position. Yes, the crouch attack was cancerous. Small shield and medium shield weapon types, they increase the damage negation of some shields when blocking physical attacks and increase the guard strength. That's going to make sword and board a lot more viable in PvP play. Now it will take longer to be able to cancel into most actions after performing one-handed normal attacks with the Swift Spear. They extended the range of the Smith's Grip daggers. They increased the attribute scaling of Rolana's Twin Blade for lower intelligence and faith attributes. And Rolana's Cameo Talisman, they reduced the delay before the damage enhancement activates and increase the damage enhancement. Yes, that's actually going to make that talisman viable now because it was too long of a wait and the buff was too low. They also tuned some specific weapon arts. The light on the Sword of Light increased attack speed, and also the same with darkness. Dynastic Sickle Plate, they reduced the stamina consumption, increased the poise damage of follow-up attacks, increased the movement distance of the first follow-up heavy, and adjusted the damage animation recovery time when the second follow-up heavy attack hits another player. Shield Strike, canceling other actions to perform this weapon art will now take longer. Moon and Fire Stance, they increase the light wave range, poise damage, and attack speed of the stance's normal attack. They increase the poise damage from the stance's heavy attack and adjusted the damage animation recovery time when a stance's heavy attack hits another player. With Devonia's Vortex, they increased the attack power, they extended the attack range of the Great Hammer's spin, increased poise value and poise generation speed, adjusted the damage animation recovery time when a charged attack hits another player. That's a good one because that was a slow weapon. Rolana's Twin Moons, they increased the attack range for the first and second attacks and reduced the knockback distance of the second attack. With incantations, they increased the attack power, stamina attack power against enemies, and close range hitbox now follows the movement of the player with the Crucible Thorns. With the Crucible Bloom, they increased the attack speed and the size of the hitbox and shorten the recovery time between using the incantation and follow-up actions. With Divine Bird Feathers, they decreased the minimum delay between consecutive hits and increased the range. With Furious Blade of Ansbach, canceling the incantation into rolls will now take less time, increased poise damage, and they increased enemy knockback distance. With Midra's Flame of Frenzy, they increased attack speed, increased frenzy status build-up range against enemies, and frenzy status build-up when using the skill. And Bell's Flame Lightning, they increased the attack power. Now, other than these fixes, they have numerous bug fixes and performance fixes. The main bug fix I like to touch on is at the top of the list. The Black Firefly items will now correctly reappear when resting at a site of grace. You did have to fast travel back to the grace in order to get those to reboot. So now you can do your farming without having to go through a reload screen. But that's the main crux of it. Let's see how this plays out. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of play testing online. But that's all I got for today. You guys have a great one, and peace.